Welcome to Gurong Pinoy International. I am Mr. Renz Flores and I will be your presenter for this review session in music, arts, PE and health. In order for us to navigate smoothly with our review session, please take time to read the following instructions. The questions and choices will be presented on the screen, and after which, the correct answer will be highlighted. Most of the questions provides a follow-up explanation after each item. You may want to use the pause button once in a while to digest the information on each item. Take note of questions or topics that you feel needs further discussion. If you have questions and needing clarifications, email me using the address on the screen. Good luck and enjoy! The degree of motion at a joint is determined by A. The amount of synovial fluid in a joint. B. The number of bursa around the joint. C. The bone shape and joint structure. D. The unusual amount of exercise. The correct answer is letter C. The bone shape and joint structure. A joint is a part of the body where two or more bones meet to allow movement. Generally, the greater the range of movement, the higher the risk of injury because of the strength of the joint is reduced. The 6 types of freely movable joint include ball and socket, saddle, hinge, condyloid, pivot, and gliding. The lasting power of the heart, lungs, and skeletal muscle as a result of regular exercise, such as walking, jogging, swimming, and aerobic dancing is referred to as A. Flexibility, B. Power, C. Strength, D. Stamina. The correct answer is letter D. Stamina. Stamina or endurance is the ability of an organism to exert itself and remain active for a long period of time, as well as its ability to resist, withstand, recover from, and have immunity to trauma, wounds, or fatigue. It is usually used in aerobic or anaerobic exercise. When the body systems work together smoothly to carry out your daily life activities, you are said to have A. Strength, B. Full of energy, C. Physical fitness, D. Healthy lifestyle. The correct answer is letter C. Physical fitness. Physical fitness is a state of health and well-being, and more specifically, the ability to perform aspects of sports, occupations, and daily activities. Physical fitness is generally achieved through proper nutrition, moderate to vigorous physical exercise, and sufficient rest. Walking is an example of A. Catalyst, B. Matter, C. Kinetic energy, D. Potential energy. The correct answer is letter C. Kinetic energy. When work is done on an object, the object gains speed and acquires kinetic energy. When a player throws a ball, work is done. The arm applies a force to a ball through a distance. Once that kinetic energy is achieved, work continues to be done just to overcome friction and maintain speed. Forward movement of a part of the body in a plane. A. Insertion. B. Protraction. C. Obstruction. D. Extension. The correct answer is letter B. Protraction. Protraction is a movement of a body part in the anterior direction. Example is being drawn forwards. The movement of protraction is the opposite of the movement of retraction. Protraction of the shoulder is one of the movements. Protraction of the shoulder is one of the movements used in rowing. When Joe White put out his arm to receive money from his father, which pair of action are involved? A. Pronation and rotation. B. Flexion and inversion. C. Flexion and abduction. D. Extension and supination. The correct answer is letter D. Extension and supination. Extension is the straightening of a joint. This occurs when the angle of a joint increases. For example, the elbow when throwing a shot put. The take-off knee extends when a high jumper takes off or the other knee is flexed. Ball and socket joints also allow flexion and extension. Supination is the act of turning the palm upward. The component of a second-class lever are positioned in this sequence. A. Pivot resistance effort. B. Pivot effort resistance. C. Resistance pivot effort. D. Effort pivot resistance. The correct answer is letter C. Resistance pivot effort. There are three types of levers in biomechanics: first class, second class, and third class. The difference between the three classes depends on where the force is, where the fulcrum is, and where the load is. In a first-class lever, the fulcrum is located between the input force and output force. In a second-class lever, the output force is between the fulcrum and the input force. In a third-class lever, the input force is between the fulcrum and the output force. The carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. A. Saddle joint. B. Hinge joint. C. Pivot joint. D. Gliding joint. The correct answer is letter A. Saddle joint. The carpo-metacarpal or CMC of the thumb is a saddle joint that permits a wide range of motion and is largely responsible for the characteristic dexterity of human prehension. This joint, located at the very base of the thumb, is subject to large physical stresses throughout life. The longest and strongest bone in the body. A. Humerus. B. Femur. C. Tibia. D. Fibula. The correct answer is letter B. Femur. The femur is one of the most well-described bones of the human skeleton in fields ranging from clinical anatomy to forensic medicine, because it is the longest and strongest bone in the human body and thus one of the most well-preserved in skeletal remains. It makes the greatest contribution to archaeology. The muscle in the upper arm used as the injection site. A. Biceps. B. Triceps. C. Deltoid. D. Trapezius. The correct answer is letter C. Deltoid. The deltoid muscle is a large triangular-shaped muscle which lies over the glenohumeral joint and which gives the shoulder its rounded contour. It is named after the Greek letter delta, which is shaped like an equilateral triangle. Muscle fatigue is caused by a build-up of A. ATP, B. Lactic acid, C. Oxygen, D. Glycogen. The correct answer is letter B. Lactic acid. Lactic acid is a byproduct of anaerobic metabolism in which the body produces energy without using oxygen. Since the discovery of lactic acid, the popular notion has been that it is responsible for muscle fatigue and also tissue damage induced by the lactic acid following an intense workout. The strongest muscle of the body is the buttocks, also called A. Gastrocnemius, B. Gluteus, C. Trapezius, D. Rectus femoris. The correct answer is letter B. Gluteus. The gluteus maximus is located in the buttocks and is regarded as one of the strongest muscles in the human body. It is connected to the coccyx or tailbone as well as the surrounding bones. The gluteus maximus muscle is responsible for movement of the hip and the thigh. The biggest part of the human brain, consisting of the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobe. A. Cerebellum, B. Cerebrum, C. Midbrain, D. Brainstem. The correct answer is letter B. Cerebrum. The biggest part of the brain is the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the thinking part of the brain and it controls your voluntary muscles, the ones that move when you want them to. The nerve which contains fibers that both send and receive messages. A. Afferent nerve, B. Mixed nerve, C. Efferent nerve, D. Sensory nerve. The correct answer is letter B. Mixed nerve. Mixed nerves are composed of both motor and sensory fibers and transmit messages in both directions at once. Together, the nerves make up the peripheral nervous system, as distinguished from the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. The blood type found in the largest percent of the population. A. Type AB, B. Type B, C. Type A, D. Type O, The correct answer is letter D, type O. Type O is routinely in short supply and in high demands by hospitals, both because it is the most common blood type and because type O negative blood is the universal blood. It is needed for emergency transfusions and for immune deficient infants. The valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle that prevents the backflow of blood. A. Tricuspid valve. B. Bicuspid valve. C. Aortic semilunar valve. D. Pulmonary semilunar valve. The correct answer is letter A, tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve is one of the two main valves on the right side of your heart. Normally, the tricuspid valve has three flaps or leaflets that open and close, allowing blood to flow from the right atrium to right ventricle in your heart and preventing blood from flowing backward. The blood circulation that carries blood from the heart to lungs and back to heart. A. Coronary. B. Cardiopulmonary. C. Fetal. D. Portal. The correct answer is letter B, cardiopulmonary. The pulmonary circulation is the portion of the circulatory system which carries deoxygenated blood away from the right ventricle to the lungs and returns oxygenated blood to the left atrium and ventricle of the heart. The term pulmonary circulation is readily paired and contrasted with the systemic circulation. The blood vessel that carries blood away from the heart to the lung. A. Pulmonary artery. B. Aorta. C. Pulmonary vein. D. Vena cava. The correct answer is letter A, pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs. The blood here passes through capillaries adjacent to alveoli and becomes oxygenated as part of the process of respiration. In contrast to the pulmonary arteries, the bronchial arteries supply nutrition to the lungs themselves. In archery, the amount of pull given to the bow will determine the speed and distance of the arrow upon its release. A. First law of motion. B. Third law of motion. C. Second law of motion. D. Newton's law of gravitation. The correct answer is letter C, second law of motion. The second law of motion can be formally stated as follows. The acceleration of an object is produced by a net force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force in the same direction as the net force and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. The type of bone that usually functions as a lever. A. Flat bone. B. Irregular bone. C. Short bone. D. Long bone. The correct answer is letter D, long bone. Levers can be used so that a small force can move a much bigger force. This can also be applied in the human bone. This is called mechanical advantage. In our bodies, Bones act as lever arms, joints act as pivots, and muscles provide the effort forces to move loads. The blood flow to the brain during moderate exercise. A. Increases. B. Remains unchanged. C. Decreases. D. Initially increase, then decreases. The correct answer is letter A. Increases. Originally thought to receive steady blood flow, the brain has shown to experience increases in blood flow during moderate exercise. Although increases have not consistently been documented, the overwhelming evidence supporting an increase may be a result of an increase in brain metabolism. A person's blood pressure is generally taken with a cuff around the humerus. A. The subclavian artery. B. Brachial artery. C. The humeral artery. D. Radial artery. The correct answer is letter B. Brachial artery. The brachial artery is a major blood vessel located in the upper arm and is the main supplier of blood to the arm and hand. The brachial artery continues from the axillary artery at the shoulder and travels down the underside of the arm. The force that pushes your body off the water in swimming is A. Gravity. B. Pressure. C. Hydraulics. D. Buoyancy. The correct answer is letter D. Buoyancy. Buoyancy is the force that causes objects to float. It is the force exerted on an object that is partly or wholly immersed in a fluid. Buoyancy is caused by the differences in pressure acting on opposite sides of an object immersed in a static fluid. It is also known as the buoyant force. Carry information around the body by electrical signals. A. Nerves. B. Ligaments. C. Cells. D. Muscles. The correct answer is letter A. Nerves. A nerve is an enclosed cable-like bundle of nerve fibers called axons. In the peripheral nervous system, a nerve transmits electrical impulses and is the basic unit of the peripheral nervous system. Unit of living material that is the base building block of life. A. Ligaments. B. Cells. C. Nerves. D. Muscles. The correct answer is letter B. Cells. Cells are the smallest units of life and hence are often referred to as the building blocks of life. The study of cells is called cell biology, cellular biology, or cytology. Cells consist of cytoplasm enclosed with a membrane, which contains many biomolecules such as proteins, and nucleic acids. The ability to exert force is A. Flexibility, B. Strength, C. Coordination, D. Endurance. The correct answer is letter B. Strength. Muscular strength is the ability to exert force against resistance. Exerting force may or may not mean there is movement of the joints or body. Muscular endurance is the ability of a muscle or group of muscles to exert force repeatedly. Capacity to travel or move very quickly. A. Flexibility, B. Speed, C. Coordination, D. Endurance. The correct answer is letter B. Speed. Speed is important in sprinting, speed skating, sprint cycling, and sports such as tennis, when a player has to move forward quickly from the baseline to reach a drop shot close to the net. The ability to move all or part of the body as quickly as possible is called speed. Perform and learn sporting skills well. A. Flexibility, B. Strength, C. Skill, D. Endurance. The correct answer is letter C. Skill. Skill is defined as the ability to perform a sporting skill consistently well at speed, under fatigue, and pressure conditions in a competition environment. Resistance to fatigue. A. Flexibility, B. Strength, C. Power, D. Endurance. The correct answer is letter B. Strength. Strength in sports is the ability to carry out work against a fatigue or resistance. Strength is the maximal force you can apply against a load. Training to improve muscle strength includes lifting weights or otherwise increasing the resistance against which you work. Gradually reduces with age. A. Flexibility, B. Speed, C. Coordination, D. Endurance. The correct answer is letter B. Speed. As early as our mid-20s, we start to lose fast-twitch and intermediate fast-twitch speed muscle fibers at a rate that can reach 1% per year, a process called sarcopenia. On the other hand, our slow-twitch or endurance muscle fibers are resistant to age-related atrophy. There are blank water jumps in steeplechase. A. 5, B. 12, C. 7, D. 14. The correct answer is letter C. 7. Athletes competing in the steeplechase are runners of the standard course face a total of 7 water jumps and 28 hurdling jumps. Hurdles are 91.4 centimeters high, and one of them, which has a top bar of 12.7 centimeters, is placed immediately in front of the water jump, which is 3.66 meters or 12 feet long. One round in the oval is blank. A. 100 meter, B. 500 meter, C. 600 meter, D. 400 meter. The correct answer is letter D. 400 meter. A standard Olympic-sized track measures 400 meters around. That means that one lap around this size track is 400 meters or a fourth of a mile. So if you're looking to run a mile or a 1,600 meter distance, you'll want to run 4 laps around the oval. Triple jump is done by a blank step and jump. A. Hop, B. Walk, C. Run, D. Skip. The correct answer is letter A. Hop. Triple jump, also called hop, step, and jump, is an event in athletics or track and field in which an athlete makes a horizontal jump for distance, incorporating 3 distinct continuous movements: a hop, in which the athlete takes off and lands on the same foot, a step, landing on the other foot, and the jump, which is landing in any. There are blank hurdles in the hurdling events. A. 10, B. 12, C. 14, D. 16. The correct answer is letter A. 10. The standard long hurdle race is 400 meters for both men and women. Each of these races is run over 10 hurdles, and they are all Olympic events. Heptathlon is composed of blank events. A. 6, B. 7, C. 8, D. 9. The correct answer is letter B. 7. A heptathlon is a track and field combined events contest made up of 7 events. The name derives from the Greek hepta. A competitor in heptathlon is referred to as a heptathlete. There are 2 heptathlons, the women's heptathlon and the men's, composed of different events. Decathlon is composed of blank running events. A. 8, B. 4, C. 6, D. 3. The correct answer is letter B. 4. The men's decathlon consists of 100-meter sprint, long jump, shot put, high jump, and 400-meter for day 1. 110 meters hurdles, discus throw, pole vault, javelin throw, and 1,500 meter for day 2. 100 meter, 400 meters, and blank meter are all sprint events. A. 800 meter, B. 1,500 meter, C. 200 meter, D. 300 meter. The correct answer is letter C. 200 meter. A sprint is a short running race. In a track and field competition, there are generally 3 different sprint distances: 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters. The original Olympic event, the stadium race, was a sprint of around 180. The original Olympic event, the stadium race, was a sprint of around 180 meters. What is the Filipino martial art of stick fighting? A. Kali, B. Kuntaw, C. Arnis, D. Eskrima. The correct answer is letter C. Arnis. Arnis comes from arnes, or Old Spanish word for armor. Arnis, also known as Kali or Eskrima, is the national martial art of the Philippines. The 3 are roughly interchangeable umbrella terms for the traditional martial arts of the Philippines. Who is the father of modern arnis? A. Ernie A. Presas, B. A. Soteca, C. Remy A. Presas, D. Roberto Presas. The correct answer is letter C. Remy A. Presas. Remy Amador Presas was the founder of modern arnis, a popular Filipino martial art. Born in the Philippines, he moved to the United States in 1974, where he taught his art via seminars and camps. In 1982, he was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame as Instructor of the Year. Chakalele is a native Indonesian fencing art with technique closely similar to A. Kali, B. Arnis, C. Espada y Daga, D. Redonda. The correct answer is letter B. Arnis. Arnis de mano is the native art of stick fighting, predates recorded Philippine history in origin and development. When the Spaniards came in the 16th century, they found that the art flourishing in many parts of Philippine archipelago. This is a system of fighting with bladed weapons among Maharlikas known as A. Kali, B. Arnis, C. Espada y Daga, D. D. Redonda. The correct answer is letter A. Kali. Arnis was then called Kali, a system of fighting with bladed weapons among the Maharlikas or nobility. Historians theorize that Kali may have been derived from Chakalele, which is a native Indonesian martial art with techniques closely resembling it. What school is teaching Kali to the children as part of the curriculum during the reign of Datus of Panay? A. Bothoan. B. Kuntao. C. Moro-Moro. D. Matjapahit. The correct answer is letter D. Matjapahit. The Matjapahit was a Javanese Hindu thalassocratic empire in Southeast Asia that was based on the island of Java. It existed from 1293 to circa 1527 and reached its peak of glory during the era of Hayam, whose reign from 1350 to 1389 was marked by conquest that extended throughout Southeast Asia. A standard Olympic pool measure is A. 50 meter, B. 75 meter, C. 100 meter, D. 125 meter. The correct answer is letter A. 50 meter. An Olympic-sized swimming pool conforms to regulated dimensions that are large enough for international competition. Olympic-sized pools measure 50 meters long, 25 meters wide, and a minimum of 2 meters deep. 660,430 gallons of water. An old woman is unable to move one side of her body. Her speech is hard to understand. She might be suffering from A. Heat stroke, B. Heat exhaustion, C. A stroke, D. Heart attack. The correct answer is letter C. A stroke. A stroke occurs when the blood supply to a part of your brain is interrupted or reduced, preventing brain tissue from getting oxygen and nutrients. Brain cells begin to die in minutes. A stroke is a medical emergency, and prompt treatment is crucial. It slows down the brain function and other parts of the nervous system. A. Chocolate, B. Coffee, C. Alcohol, D. Tea. The correct answer is letter C. Alcohol. Alcohol is classified as a central nervous system depressant, meaning it slows down brain functioning and neural activity. Alcohol does this by enhancing the effects of neurotransmitters. It is prescribed to control extreme pain. A. Sedative, B. Morphine, C. Antibiotic, D. Opium. The correct answer is letter B. Morphine. Morphine is used to relieve moderate to severe pain. Morphine extended release tablets and capsules are only used to relieve severe or around-the-clock pain that cannot be controlled by the use of other pain medications. This is a simple scrape-type wounds which can be contaminated and infected due to the dirt and bacteria. A. Laceration. B. Incision. C. Puncture. D. Abrasion. The correct answer is letter D. Abrasion. An abrasion is a type of open wound that caused by the skin rubbing against a rough surface. It may be called a scrape or a graze. When an abrasion is caused by the skin sliding across a hard ground, it may be called a road rash. Abrasions are very common injuries. They can range from mild to severe. What drugs increase heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate? A. Inhalants. B. Depressants. C. Hallucinogens. D. Stimulants. The correct answer is letter D. Stimulants. Stimulants is an overarching term that covers many drugs, including those that increase activity of the central nervous system and the body. Drugs that are pleasurable and invigorating, or drugs that have symptomimetic effects. Which of the following is an occupational dance? A. Polka Sanayon. B. Binigan Bigat. C. Lanceros de Negros. D. Mananggete. The correct answer is letter D. Mananggete. Mananggete dance is a dance that shows how the people work on tuba or coconut wine. Mananggete means coconut wine tapper, the person who extracts the coconut to produce a coconut wine. Mananggete folk dance is considered as an occupational dance originating from the province of Lanao. It is a dance among the Apayaos imitating the high-flying bird and is called blank. A. Benjan. B. Sayam. C. Patong. D. Turayen. The correct answer is letter D. Turayen. Benjan is a Benguet or Ibaloy victory and celebration dance. Sayam is a victory war dance of the Kalingas after taking the head of an enemy. Patong is a prayer dance seeking revenge to a slain warrior. And Turayen is an Apayao dance imitating the flight of birds.